Hello, and welcome to Is This a Podcast? Episode 7, I believe we're on. Oh my god, episode 7 already? That's flown over really, hasn't it? Apart from if you've actually done the listening, and then of course you'll be like, oh no, this is the slowest rubbish I think I've ever listened to. However, I will start with the basics of the show. It is, at the time of recording this, it is the 14th of July 2020, and it is currently 2:34 a.m. Yeah, I can't sleep. I just cannot sleep, and it's annoying and weird. But I just got done actually watching a really interesting program. I have this habit that when I go to sleep, in order for me to fall asleep, and this has been like for, oh my god, donkey's years, with the exception of like a handful of nights, is that I have to fall asleep while there's background noise. So like the TV on, or my laptop will be on playing old videos, well, not YouTube videos, like Friends or Will and Grace, something like that. And I pay on my other channel for YouTube Premium, which of course means no adverts, well, apart from the ones where it's like, today's video is sponsored by fucking Wix, build a website or something, I don't know, whatever it is. And yeah, so the past couple of nights I've actually fallen asleep to YouTube videos. Now most of these are programs that have been on TV and that probably shouldn't be on YouTube, but the one I've just been watching was called When the Lights Go Out, and the idea behind it is that it's a documentary that was actually made in 2004, but it was based in the future in 2010. Well, obviously now we're in 2020, so it's actually quite interesting, sort of looking back at what they thought the situation was going to be. Very different how things actually turned out, I must say. And so the question of it is what if there was an explosion on the sorry, I knew that was coming and I didn't have a chance to warn you. I'm so sorry if I've just deafened you. Yeah, what if there was... Oh, I think I'm going to sneeze again. Oh my god. Oof. I will actually be able to finish this sentence. So what if there was an explosion on this particular gas pipe which comes from northern Russia? And how would it affect life here in the United Kingdom? Now you have these experts on that are like, it would be, power failure right across the UK, and this is why we should keep coal-powered power stations and nuclear power and all this, and we should only have 10% renewable. And it's like, okay, calm down, love. It actually doesn't factor in things like solar panels, these water turbine things that are like under the sea, and just stuff like that. So it is kind of inaccurate and very kind of biased into sort of why we shouldn't be more environmentally friendly. But it does overall raise a very important question, because you actually have to wonder, if the power went right across the UK, and we're not talking like, a few hours, we're talking potentially days, maybe weeks, how prepared am I for something like that? And the answer is, I don't think I'm very prepared at all. In fact, I know I wouldn't be. I would be fucked. When I go out to shop for food, I normally buy a lot of frozen products. Well, obviously you need electric for the freezer to be kept on. If the electric isn't there, the freezer can't be kept on. Most of that food needs to be cooked in an oven. If the electric isn't on, you can't use the oven. And it's just little things like this. And yeah, it was quite an interesting little train of thought, just to let your brain wander. I think mine does. Well, I was going to say daily. It's near enough minute by minute. There's a new thought in my mind. Anyway, yes. So, let's dive in to the news. Now, obviously, the news, as it kind of has been for near enough the entirety of this series, is about COVID-19. The United Kingdom is I want to say we're coming out of the lockdown. We are, but we're not. The numbers aren't going down, and that's the worrying thing. We have had more days where the amount of deaths are in single figures, which is a good thing. But then we do have days where the number is like 130 or 140, something like that. And so basically most businesses can open now. And for some reason, from the 24th of July, that is when face coverings are going to become compulsory for shopping in England. Like the 24th of July. That will be, what, 4 months, maybe 5 months, something like that, since the lockdown has come in. Why is it only now that face masks are becoming compulsory? These should have been one of the first things to become compulsory. It just feels like too little too late now. You look at America at the minute, and there's a study that came out that said if 80% of Americans wore a face mask when they go out in public and blah blah blah, the amount of COVID cases would come down by 90%. And you think, wow, okay. In the UK, I don't see it having obviously that big of an impact. It certainly would have an impact, but like the law in Scotland, for example, has said that face coverings are already compulsory. You have to wear them, otherwise you're not doing your shopping. So why is England waiting? And why wasn't this brought in a while back? It really annoys me. The United Kingdom as a whole, we fucked up. We fucked up badly. The numbers that we had of deaths, it needn't have been that many at all. I mean, okay, I accept that things like medicine and general advice have changed on near enough a daily basis. I get it. I get that, that is something that has changed. It has been hard to keep up with. I get it. But things like wear a face mask, why hasn't that been compulsory since the beginning? Just annoys me. But you have the governor of California has reimposed restrictions amid a virus spike. So basically, they've just rolled back the reopening plans across the state because the cases of COVID-19 have started to go up. And that is exactly how it should be. I mean, like, I know in the UK we have a city or I don't know if it's still called a town actually, but it's called Leicester. And Leicester has had to go back into a full lockdown because they were seeing a spike in cases. Now, we are seeing the numbers kind of, I don't know if the right word would be stagnate, in that they're not really going up, but they're not really going down. They're kind of just staying where they are. So I personally think that the lockdown, I think that should be brought back right across the United Kingdom. And you know, it probably wouldn't be for as long as the last one was, but we can nail this, and we can say, okay, lockdown again, review it in 2 months, something like that. But that would really get the numbers down, and that's what we need. But as I've said many a time, the reason I'm not in politics is because I can't hold my tongue, which is why I do this podcast. I'm just going to have a little drink. So, also in the news, a body has been identified as missing Glee star Naya Riviera. Now, this case is really strange. I like listening to weird cases that have been solved, of, like, you know, where people have gone missing and that sort of thing. This is one of them cases, because her very young son was found in a boat on the lake. He was by himself. He has been questioned by police, but it was only the two of them that went out in the boat. In fact, the reason that they got the police called in the first place was because it was a boat that was hired, and they didn't bring it back on time. And I think it got to something like, it had been over 4 hours, and there's still no sign of this boat coming back. So they called the police, and they said, look, we've hired this boat, they are somewhere on this lake, or, you know, they've done a runner with it, but, you know, check the lake first. So they go out with the police, and they find the boat with her son on it. Now, like I said, he has been questioned. I don't know exactly what it is that he's told them, but pretty quickly the police turned it into a thing of, we're kind of looking for a body, not so much the person anymore. And yeah, it was announced yesterday that they found a body, and it is hers. Incredibly sad. Whatever the circumstances are that have led up to this, it is incredibly sad. But just the nosy part of me would, you know, love to know what it is that's happened. 12 minutes ago, well, not 12 minutes ago, but the news article is from 12 minutes ago. No DSS letting bans have been ruled unlawful by a court. A court has ruled that refusing to rent to a person because they are on housing benefit is unlawful. Now, this is a massive piece of legislation that it should have never been allowed in the first place. Basically, if I owned a property, I could put on the advert and say, no pets, which is fine. I could put no children, and kind of some people would be okay with that. I could have put no DSS. Now, DSS is it's the name for the old version of what we now call housing benefit, where basically the government will pay your rent while you are either too sick to work, you're out of work, or you're dying, basically. And we saw, under just normal housing benefit, as the system was, with what we call now the old style benefits, we saw kind of not many adverts with no DSS, and that was because the housing benefit was paid to the landlord. It went straight into their bank. No ifs, no buts. That's how it was. Then the government said, well, we need something new. And they brought out this thing called universal credit. And I remember hearing about universal credit and thinking, oh God, this isn't going to work. And one of the first things that I heard was, we are encouraging people to pay their own rent. They have to manage that. It's also going to be paid monthly instead of 2 weekly. And because it boosts morality to pay one's own rent. And I remember thinking, oh, here we go. Because for a long time in the UK, the benefit system, as I have actually documented before on this channel, the benefit system does not pay anywhere near enough. And the very handy thing about housing benefit is that you don't handle that money. It is sent directly to your landlord, and it keeps a roof over your head. But the idea of universal credit, I can understand. Yes, it is better, and you can feel better by going, I pay my own rent. However, if your income is that small, you have to choose, do I pay the full rent, or do I buy food for me and my family? Most people are choosing food, and I don't blame them, because what's the point in keeping a roof over your head if you are starving to death inside? And make no mistake of that. Like, I live in a town where unemployment is kind of still quite high. A lot of people rely on the benefit system. And the way that things are at the moment, with universal credit, it is very, very hard for people to stick to. And rent arrears are going up. And that's just a fact right across the United Kingdom. The amount that people owe on things like rent, it is going up. And the government aren't doing anything about this. So what we started to see more of over the coming years was no DSS. And that basically meant if you are on housing benefit or in receipt of universal credit, no, we will not rent to you. And I can kind of understand a landlord's concerns. I definitely understand that. But in certain areas, public housing is not available. So people have to rent privately. And they are being discriminated against just because they're on benefits. And that shouldn't be the way. Under changes that came in about 2 years ago with universal credit, if you are mentally basically, if you're crap at handling your own money, you can ask the Department for Work and Pensions to pay the rent element of your benefit to your landlord. But they will only do that in very, very rare circumstances, and that often does mess up. And if it messes up, the buck stops with you. Your landlord will still boot you out. Whereas the way that things are or were under housing benefit is that your landlord would go to the DWP and be like, hey, you haven't paid me. And it would be sorted that way. So I am glad that this ruling has come in, but it doesn't address the underlying problems as to why people are having to choose buying food and putting it over paying rent. Anyway, sorry, I get so easily distracted when I'm trying to read and talk at the same time. But anyway, I think, how long has this been going on for now? About 20 minutes. So I think we've covered, pretty much most of the news there. And I get to tell you about my last day in California on the holiday. So, comes to the last day, and the night before we had been up to the top of the Mark. We'd done the drink, seen the incredible views, and our last day was actually on a Monday. This is where we kind of got confused at home, like in planning everything, because when we flew out of San Francisco, we were leaving on the Monday at 8 o'clock at night. We wouldn't land in the UK until Tuesday at, I think it's 3 p.m. And then we then had to fly from London Heathrow up to Manchester Airport, where my friend Sonny was going to meet us, pick us up, and take us home. So when we were booking all these extra flights to and from Heathrow, my mum said, right, well, when do we leave to come back? And I said, I was halfway through researching something at the time, and I just went, oh, it's Monday. So my mum actually booked flights for Monday evening. And then it's only when we went through the paperwork and we were like, oh, we leave San Francisco on Monday evening. We don't get home until Tuesday afternoon. And that's when we need the flights. And then there was a thing of what time should we book the flights, because there were some flights that were at like 5 o'clock, and then there was some at 7 o'clock or 7:30, something like that. And I said, well, we need to go for the 7:30 ones because 5 o'clock, if we're delayed coming in, you have to keep in mind you've got to go from the plane to go and pick up your cases. That can be quite a long period of time. You then have to go through customs and exile, and then you have to go from one terminal to another. You've then got to check in, go through security, go through duty free, make your way over to your gate. I think we're putting too much pressure on it if we've only got 2 hours to do that. I think that's cutting it a bit too fine. So we booked for the 7:30 ones. Anyway, yeah, so basically we paid for the flights on the Monday evening, and we never got a refund. So that was fun. Anyway, so we woke up at about, I think it was about 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. We got up and we have our shower and that sort of thing, and we got dressed, went down to breakfast, and that is actually the day that I videoed some of the breakfast area, because there's a video on YouTube of this fella going around the breakfast buffet, and he's like, oh, you only get a small selection, and it's, you know, blah, 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 and it's not worth the money and everything like that. Now, I can kind of understand it. No, not really. The food is amazing quality. It really, really is. I've never had breakfasts so nice in my life. I really enjoyed each and every one of them. But when you're billing it to your room, I mean, obviously our breakfasts were included anyway, but they still print out a bill and you have to sign it, and they bill it to your room, and then the system goes, oh, well, that's already paid for, so that's fine. And for me and my mum to have breakfast basically worked out at like $80 a day, which by British standards and British money, that is quite expensive. But in California, I mean, you're right in the middle of San Francisco here. You're at one of the highest rated hotels in San Francisco. So you are going to expect to pay a little bit more. And like I said before, don't get me wrong, the breakfasts, oh my God, they are amazing. Just, I mean, if they let people in just to have breakfast, I would recommend going. It really is that good. But anyway, so we have our breakfast, and we go back off upstairs and we pack. because obviously we have to be out of the room by, I think it was 11 a.m. I think. Or it might have been 10. But anyway, we were out of the room by 10. Fully packed, and we checked in our luggage into the hotel, and they basically put it into a side room for you while you go out for the day, and then you can come back, pick up your luggage, and fuck off. Obviously, they put it more politely. Anyway, so we've done the luggage. That's been checked in, which actually was quite hilarious, really, because my mum, when we checked out. Oh, and this is the bit I was going to tell you from the other podcasts. So when we checked out, and the receptionist, have you had a nice stay? Like, do you know what? This hotel is amazing, and we can never ever rate it high enough. It's beautiful. The beds are amazing. The food is to die for. You have an amazing hotel here. And my mum made the joke, and she said, "Oh, I really don't want to give this key back because it's like, a little memory." And the receptionist said, "Well, we just cancelled the cards. Like, you can keep them if you want." So we were like, "Really?" She went, "Yeah, of course you can." So we actually kept our room keys from the trip. Anyway, she's checking us out, and she goes, "Right, okay, well, the final bill is $93. And we're like, "What?" She went, "Yeah, you had room service?" I'm like, "No, we didn't order room service, I'm sorry." She went, "Yeah, 2 breakfasts." I'm like, "Are you on about yesterday?" And she goes, "Yes." So I'm like, "We asked for 2 breakfasts to be made up, that we could take out. Our package is that breakfasts are included." And she said, "Oh yeah, the breakfasts are included, but not if you're taking them out." And we're like, "Really? We had to leave the hotel by like 5:30 in the morning. You weren't serving breakfast by then." So my mum just goes, "Oh, do you know what? Just pay it for now. We'll sort it out later." So we did, and basically spent most of the day going, "I can't believe what do you charge us for breakfast?" Anyway, we got home, and we actually my mum wrote in to Intercontinental, who are the owners and operators of the Mark Hopkins Hotel. And we said, "Look, this is kind of misleading because, we're told breakfasts are included. We have it on paperwork, breakfast included. Yet, we were charged for a breakfast, and it wasn't even a full breakfast. It was kind of not that amazing. But we're charged for that and more because we took it out of the hotel. Like that's not fair." And when we ordered the breakfasts to go, there was no mention of costs, and there should have been, especially if that wasn't included in our package. Anyway, they emailed back and they agreed with us, so they apologised and they issued a refund. So I genuinely, I can't fault them on that, but at the time you're a bit like, "Oh shit, I don't have that money." Thank God for Mum and her credit cards. Anyway, so the main reason in my mind for going to San Francisco was because I wanted to go to the Castro. And the Castro, for those who don't know, it's it is a road, but it's like an area by itself. I believe it's 6 blocks wide by 6 blocks deep, or it's something like that anyway. And it's known as the Gay District. It has a very, very rich gay history because it is home to a man called Harvey Milk. And Harvey Milk was the first ever openly gay elected city supervisor. Well, basically politician of any sort. And he did a massive amount of progress for the gay community. He did so much for us. And even though that's on in a different country, it's on an international scale for me, it is still part of my heritage. and I had watched the film Milk at home, which is obviously kind of like a documenting his life, and I found it amazing. And I found out through friends of mine that Harvey Milk's camera shop it's still there. It's not called Castro Cameras anymore. It's a human rights organisation shop. So basically a charity shop, really. But yeah, you can still go in there. You can still see the building and the area and everything like that. So I was like, oh, that would be amazing. So of course, when there's a trip, I'm like, yeah, I want to go to San Francisco. I want to go to the Castro. I want to go and see the streets that they walked down with all the candles at the end of the film. I want to go and see City Hall. I want to go in. I want to go in the shop. I want to see it. So we had planned on going at a few points during the week, and eventually we just said, you know what, just do it on the last day, because we kind of have nothing to do on the last day. So that that would be nice. So we're like, okay, that's fine. So we check out the hotel, and they put our suitcases in to one side, which is when the funny thing happened, actually, because my mum was actually putting her room key into her purse, and to do that she took out a few notes or whatever, and the fella that was putting our suitcase away just kind of looked at me mum and was like, oh, that's very generous of you, ma'am, thank you. And he took the $5 out of my mum's hand, and my mum was like, oh, it's okay, you're welcome. Like, okay. And then so we're walking away from the hotel, and my mum just starts laughing. She's like, she went, I was going to give him a tip, but it wasn't going to be $5. She said, I was just putting the money away into my purse. I didn't mean to hold it out like I did. Like, she went, it's completely my fault that he's misread the, but oh my god, how funny is that? So I was like, yeah, okay, hilarious. So earlier on, I think it was before we went in for breakfast, I'd actually asked one of the door staff of the hotel, where is the Castro, where do we go? And he'd said, well, it's kind of straightforward, really. You go down to about the Hilton Hotel, maybe just a bit further, and turn right and keep walking, and you will end up in the Castro. So I'm like, okay, how far do you think it is? And he was like, well, it's about 15 minutes. So I'm like, okay, that sounds great. So yeah, we left the hotel, and I said to my mum, come on, we can walk this, it's fine. And you can definitely see on the video, I recorded the walk. I recorded a lot of the walk because I didn't know. We walked basically about, it must have been about 4 miles, maybe 5, something like that. Like a ridiculous walk. And it's warm. The streets are busy. The roads are busy. And my mum, God love her, was in pain at this point. Like, yes, she'd had her CBD oil, yes, she'd had all of her painkillers, but her knees and hips hurt. And I mean, who can blame her? We've just spent the past few days, hiking everywhere, uphill and down dale, for exploring, and then today, I'm expecting her to walk like all these miles, and I genuinely felt bad because I didn't realise it was going to be that far away. Otherwise, I would have said, let's jump a taxi, or let's, go on the not the cable car, what is the trolleys. Let's go on the trolleys, or something like that. But no, I didn't. Anyway, we go along, and at one point, you start seeing like shops that have the LGBT flag hanging outside or in the window, something like that, and you're like, oh, okay, we're getting close. And it wasn't far away. My mum actually she just leant against one of these newspaper stand things, and she was like, "Look, I'll stay here. You walk up, go and do your exploring, and I'll see you back here in a bit." And I'm like, "No, come on." And the idea of the trip is we're away together, and I don't mind waiting with you, but come on, we'll walk it. It's fine. It's not far. Lying. It's not far, and we're getting the trolley back anyway, which we need to get at the end of the line, which is up there. So, like, come on. So, God love her, she did. And eventually, we see the road sign, Castro. And I'm like, oh, fuck, this is it. Oh, my God. Now, Harvey Milk is known for his hope speech. I've used it quite a few times in various videos. And at the top of the Castro, over one of the buildings, in neon lights, it says, "Hope will never be silent." And I was like, wow. Okay. So we walk onto the Castro, and instantly I'm like starstruck. I'm like, this place is gay, and I love it. So we actually we went to a coffee shop, which I think was Castro Coffee or something like that. And I mean, when I say a coffee shop, most people would just think Starbucks or something like that. Like, no. This is a coffee shop. I mean, if you had an addiction to this stuff, you'd come out in a body bag. They have roasts of coffee from all over the world. Different flavours of coffee that you could never even think would exist. And they have it. They do have some teas, but, it wasn't like an expert range or something like that. But the coffees, wow. So, my mum, obviously having walked all this way, and still not had a sit down, my mum just went up to the counter, and he said, what can I get you, ma'am? And she went, "Oh, do you know what? Can I just have an ordinary coffee?" And I remember being stood behind her thinking, "Oh, Mum, don't say ordinary. Like, it's gay around here. Don't say ordinary." But the fella that served both of us, he was really polite. They both were, actually. There's two men that were serving, and I said to them, I'm like, we've come up here because it's the Castro. You've kind of got to if you come to San Francisco. Where is Harvey Milk's shop? And they said, "Oh, you walk down, it'll be on your left." And I'm thinking, well, okay, that shop alone is going to bring you a lot of business because of its status. You should kind of know where it is, like, not just down there on the left. But anyway, we get our coffees, we go and sit outside, and we have our drinks, and we're just talking away. And we actually noticed that the theatre next door, also called the Castro, they actually had, and she won an award for it as well. It was Renee Zellweger as, I want to say Dorothy, but it's not. But she was doing basically a one-woman show kind of thing, and of an evening, that is what would have been showing. And I was like, oh my God, Renee Zellweger. So she could be staying in the Mark Hopkins, because, it is renowned for famous people staying there. Oh my God, she could be there. Oh my God, we could have been in the same hotel. Imagine if we got into the same lift as Renee Zellweger. What do you say? Because the only thing I know of her is Bridget Jones's Diary. I can't bring that up because that's when she was fat. She might not be fat now. Oh my God, what'd she do? So, rabbiting away. And my mum had finished her coffee, and we were laughing because some of the names of the bars around that area, like there's one bar called Knobs. And that actually, I took a picture of it because I thought it was really funny. I don't know why, but that is actually the header of this channel. Like, if you go onto the actual channel page, that's the header for it. where it says Knobs, that's the bar I'm talking about. There's quite a few businesses with funny names down there. And of course, they're not meant offensive. It's part of the charm that the area has, that it laughs at itself. It has a good humour. So we finish our coffees, we start walking down, and we get pulled over by this woman who's raising money for donkeys in Africa, or I don't know, I wasn't really paying attention. And we went a little bit further, and then my mum said, "Oh, do you know what? I'm sorry, I can't walk at more. You go to your shop. I know you want to go in and buy stuff. It's fine. I'll wait here." So I'm like, "Mum, are you sure?" She's like, "Okay." And she said, "Yeah." So I'm like, "Okay." And boom, I was gone. And actually, I did edit this bit down of the video. I was walking along. I was just talking, sort of over the camera as it's pointing away from me. And the next thing I knew, there is the shop on my left-hand side. It's not obvious, but I was in awe of the shop because they still have the original Castro Cameras sign outside. So I'm thinking, wow, that's amazing. Oh my God, I'm seeing this. This is wow. Then I looked up, and it's only watching the film the other week that actually reminded me that Harvey Milk lived above the shop. And there is a mural painted of him at a window, looking out, smiling over the area. And it had some like inspirational saying. I can't remember what it was at the minute, but I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. So I went in. Now, the human rights organisation, they fight, yes, for LGBT stuff. They fight for a lot of stuff, and these are the good guys, you know. So I thought I do want to spend a bit of money with them, you know, because it's kind of my way of showing my support for them. So I went in, and buying hoodies, buying shirts, fucking loads of stuff, and then, you know, having a proper good look around the store and just sort of taking it all in, and, you know, looking at the wooden floor that was down, and it's just amazing. So I go over to the tills, and, you know, the woman's like, "Well, did you find everything today?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just, you know, so amazed to be here. Like, you know, I just, oh my God, this place is amazing." And she starts talking to me, and I said, "Well, you know," I said, I'm, you know, over from England. I said, "Yeah, we have homophobia and stuff like that, but we don't have this thing of, you know, like you guys over here, you have the Chick-fil-A. Like, are things really that bad over here?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then she tells me about this time that she was in Chick-fil-A and she got thrown out for kissing her girlfriend. And her and a few other friends went back in protest and did a kiss-a-thon inside Chick-fil-A, which they hated. And then this manager walks over to both of us, and he just sort of joins in with the conversation, which is really, really nice. And he was saying, you know, "Oh yeah, you know, they filmed the film in here." And I'm like, "Did they really? Well, you know, that's amazing. I didn't know that. I thought it was just like a studio, or, you know, like a mock makeup of the apartment and everything like that." And they're like, no, it was all shot where you see it in the film. And I was like, wow, that is really amazing. But, you know, I'm not just here, you know, because of the film. I'm here because this is my history. I should know it. And I can now say, look, I've been to Harvey Milk's shop. And we talk about so many things. I was in there for fucking ages. But anyway, because they said I was so nice, they went, "Do you want a bag?" I'm like, "Well, yeah, but how much are they?" And they said, no, we don't want anything for it. I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, you know, you've spent a lot with us and it's been really good talking to you." And I'm like, "Oh my God, thank you very much." So I got a free bag. So I put my stuff in, and I'm like, "Oh my God, you know what? Thank you so much. You made this experience like 10 times better. Thank you." And, you know, I leave the store, walk down to go and meet my mum, and this weird feeling came over me, and I can't really describe it. The best way that I can put it is, it felt like I was home. And I know I said it on the video, and actually recording that bit on the video where I say, like, you know, this area, I feel as if I'm home. I was actually really emotional at that point. I felt like I was leaving a bit of my soul in the Castro. I felt like I didn't want to go anywhere else. I felt home. I felt safe. And it was just so incredible for me to be in that area. Anyway, we walk back up. We go and get onto the trolley, and that kind of takes you all through the city and then around to the docks. And we'd said, you know, we'll go and have one last look around the docks, and then we can just sort of, you know, get a taxi up to the hotel, or, you know, the cable car or something like that, and that's it. So we're on this trolley, and we're on it for, God, what, about 40 minutes or something like that. And at this point, we're like, you know, we've kind of done everything that we wanted to. The only reason that we're going down to the docks is because we want to go to Pier 39, because we saw this this flyover of San Francisco Bay, and it's more than a 3D experience, and you actually lift off and you're flying over and all that, and it's like, it could be kind of good. So we go in and we buy our tickets, and it turns out it's $50, $25 each. I'm like, fucking hell, this is, you know, a bit much, but, you know, it's obviously worth it, so let's do it. So we pay that. I mean, like, literally we are throwing cents at them here. Like, we are proper, and I'm like, Mum, this is it. This is the last of my money. We just made it anyway. So we go in, and you have to sort of, you kind of like walk around this room following different screens as they're trying to tell you this story, and it's about a man who's going to propose to his girlfriend, and he wants to do it at the bay, and then he drops the ring, and that's when the ride starts. So you go into this room. There's like 2 levels. If anyone has been to Disney and been on the ride Soarin', or you've seen the ride Soarin', it's basically that. So you go in, you know, you seat belt, and you strap over and everything like that, and then the floor drops, and you think, well, this is going to be good, this is really good. And then it starts, and you're like, this is not good. In fact, it's awful. And occasionally there's a big fan in front of you that turns on. You're like, oh, okay, I can just about feel that. And the screen is a really weird shape. I mean, that is kind of off-putting because you're not getting the whole image. Oh, it was just crap, basically, is what I want to say. It was awful. Anyway, so we left that, and we were like, oh, that's really kind of rubbish. And we said, right, okay, well, you know, let's go and get the taxi. And we were looking at our clocks. We were due to get picked up from the hotel at 5 o'clock. And at this point, it's like, I think about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, something like that. We have spare time. And it's not as if we can go back to the hotel and just jump on the bed and have an hour's sleep. Kind of gotta have something to do. So we decided while we were there, we'd go and have one last look at all of the sea lions, which are down the side of Pier 39. So we did. We went and had a look, and we were there for, you know, quite a while, and it was just amazing. Those animals are the cutest things you could ever want to see. They're the noisiest things. But I think when we saw them that time, I think they'd been fed, or they'd had like lunch or something like that, because they were quieter that time. Anyway, so yeah, we watched them for a little bit, and then we said, right, okay, we'll just go up to the hotel and just chill out for a bit. No harm in that, is there? So we were like, no, there isn't. That's fine. So we go up to the hotel. We get a taxi. We go up to the hotel, and we go and sit in. And I went live on Facebook for a bit, and then went to the toilets. And my mum had said, well, why don't you ring the limousine company and just say, look, we're ready early if you want to pick us up. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go to the toilet and I'll ring them when I come back. Well, as I'm coming out of the toilet, I get a text on my phone, and it was, hi, this is whatever his name is, your limousine driver. I'm in the area now. Do you want me to come and pick you up? Take you to the airport early. So I was like, I'd literally just got to my mum in the lobby, and I was just going to say, I've had a text. And literally, the driver came and stood next to me. And he was like, hi, I just thought I'd pop in and, just see if you're ready to go now. And we're like, yeah, we're ready. And I was like, well, this is what I was just going to tell you, Mum. So, we had a little laugh about it. And, we got into the limousine. We thanked, the hotel staff that we could. And, yeah, we left for the airport. So, again, this limousine driver, he's the one who took us to go and see Cher, and he picked us up from Cher and brought us back to the hotel. So we know that he's really knowledgeable, and he's saying to us, oh, did you see this, did you go and do that? And he said, like, one of the best views that you can get of San Francisco is you have to go up to what they call the Twin Peaks, which is basically a broadcasting station tower thing, but it's on top of a hill. And the views around are amazing, and you get to see the whole city and everything like that. And I was like, and like we tell him about Soaring and how much of a rip-off it is and stuff like that. And we tell him about what life is like in England. He tells us about what life was like. God, it wasn't Russia, but it was somewhere like that. But anyway, wherever he lived before, he was telling us about life there and, what it was like and all this sort of stuff. And it was really, really interesting. And me and my mum, between us, had formed a plan. And we said, look, when we go back, like when we check in through the airport to go home, we have no use for the dollars. And I have no use for mine. I don't really want to keep them. You can look at money online anytime you like. So why don't we literally just empty our pockets, and whatever is in there, the driver can have. And my mum went, you know what? Perfect. Because he is a really, really nice driver. So I was like, okay, that's what we'll do. So we go along, we pull up outside the airport, and we say, look, just before we all get out, the money it's of no use to us at home. We have pounds sterling, and obviously you guys have American dollars, so we would like you to have whatever we have left over. And he was like, oh, no, you really don't have to. And I'm like, no, it's of no use to us. Please just accept it and use it, have a beer or something like that. And he was like, you two are so generous, thank you so much. And he helps us, out with our suitcases, wishes us well with our flight, and he drives off. So I'd said, right, okay, well, I want a cigarette before we go and check in. And that's when we met our first Trump supporter. Yeah. Who proceeded to tell us that he spends his time between San Francisco and Australia, and that the people that don't vote for Donald Trump are trying to convince everyone that there isn't enough carbon dioxide in the air or something like that, and the levels should be at point something and they're at point something else, and it's a big mystery, but Donald Trump has solved it, and it's a load of nonsense, and you tell them liberals this and blah, blah, blah. And we're just like, yeah, okay. And he eventually moves on, and so do we. We go and do the check-in thing, and I had earlier on in the day, or was it earlier on in the week? It was earlier on in the week, actually. I'd gone to a smoke shop in America because I wanted cigarettes to come home with. I think no, it actually might have been on that last day. Anyway, we went into a shop, and the fella gets talking to me mum about the CBD products, and my mum's like, "Oh, I have the oil, and I think it's amazing. I was looking to try and get some because I know it's legal over here, kind of not so legal over home." And he says, "Okay, well, we have the different strengths and different amounts and all this. So which one do you want?" I was like, "Oh, I'll have this one." Blah blah blah. And he'd actually said to me, "Mum, what form do you want it in?" My mum was like, "Oh, what forms have you got?" And he's like, "Well, smokes, oil, tablets." And my mum was like, "Oh, just the oil." So, of course, when I get to the counter, I'm like, "Right, okay, I'm 200 of them cigarettes." So you said you have the smokes of CBD. Like, yeah. I'm like, how much are they? It was like, I think it was like something like $7 or something like that for 20 joints. It was, it's 17. I can't remember. It's something ridiculous. And I was like, oh my god, yes. So I actually bought marijuana. And when we got back to the hotel and we got our cases, and I was like, okay, just drop it in and say no more about it. And my mum had the CBD oil, and yeah, we were like, okay, that's fine. So of course, checked in. My suitcase went off to go wherever onto the plane, and I'm thinking, oh shit, I hope they don't scan it and take that off me, because they could do. Because it's actually got "Can of Bliss" written on the outside of the tin, so it's kind of obvious what's inside, but oh my god. Anyway, we get up to security, and the security there, for some reason, it was almost, I'm not saying it was exactly, but it was almost like, right, get down to your underwear. I mean, like, jumpers off, shoes off. Some people were told socks off. Belts off. Pardon me, that was disgusting. Basically take everything off. So we're like, okay. So we go through, and you're allowed, I think it's like is it 2 items of hand luggage if they're under a certain size, something like that. So between us, we actually had 3 bags. So there was my bag, my mum's bag, and then a bag in the middle which would have like bottles of water, bottles for water, because you obviously have to empty them before you go through security, and then they have water fountains on the other side. You can fill them up with water. Like, what is the point? I still can't tell you. Like, terrorism deactivated because I emptied my water bottle and then filled it up on the other side. Like, what? But anyway, so we got everything ready. We put our stuff in the little trays. We go through, and we'd filled up 3 trays. So I get like my hood and my hoodie that I had, my belt and all this sort of stuff. And I'm like, Mum, where's my trainers? And everyone's like, yeah, and the black bag. And I'm like, yeah, I put them in the same one. So where is it? I was like, I don't know. I haven't seen it. So I go over to a member of the staff, and I'm like, look, our bag is supposed to have come through, but we don't know if it has. And he's like, all right, it's probably been put over. Please stand over there. So I'm like, okay. So I'm stood there by myself. My mum's still getting like herself dressed, and I'm like, oh shit, this has been pulled over by security, and I'm here by myself. And that's when my mum comes over and says, oh shit. And I'm like, what? She's like, I didn't put the CBD oil in my suitcase. It's in my hand luggage. And I'm like, Mum, are you for real? And she went, no, it's in that bag that they've pulled over. And I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake, Mum. Really? So, because you can't make a big deal of it then. So he finishes off with the people in front of us, and we go up and I'm like, hi, alright, and then I'm like, okay, what is the issue with? And he went, it's the bag. So I'm like, alright, can I have my shoes? He's like, yeah. He passed me my shoes, so I'm putting my shoes on. He says, do I have your permission to search the bag? And we went, yeah. There's literally nothing in it. There were empty bottles, for water on the other side, and I think there's like a pack of crisps or something like that. And he pulls out this bottle of Ribena juice, and he's like, well, what's this? And we're stood there kind of like in a little bit of disbelief, because we're like, it's just a bottle of Ribena. And he's like, that's more than 25 mils of fluid. I mean, my mum took the reins, because I was kind of just going to be like, yeah, and but my mum was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that was in there, can you dispose of it, thank you very much, and grab the bag and off we go. Because I think I was kind of in one of them moods, because I remembered the queues that I had to go through when we arrived. So I'm kind of thinking, I've got anger to release on you. You're gonna get it. And I would have stood there and argued with him and been like, yeah, and you're gonna defeat terrorism because of an unopened bottle of fucking Ribena? Are you taking the piss? Anyway, I didn't. So we go through to our departure thing, and we get on our flight. We have a really nice flight home, actually. I think we actually got some sleep, which is kind of decent. And then we land. We go through Heathrow, and my cap that I'd worn the entire holiday got stolen from me in security at Heathrow Airport. Yeah. Security didn't know. They said, oh well, go on this website, do a search for it in a few days. Someone might have handed it in. And to this day, no one's handed it in. So my cap got stolen. So I mean, that was a little bit of a disappointing thing on the holiday, but didn't give up. We got on our flight and we went back up to Manchester. We went through the arrivals bit absolutely fine. We got met and Sonny drove us home. Kind of asked us how it was, but when we landed in London, I'd messaged him and I'm like, look, both of us are worn the fuck out. If we see you in Manchester, which might be doubtful because our eyes might be closed, if we don't talk much, please don't take it as a personal insult. We are fucked. And good enough of him and his friend Colin. They weren't offended, because I think like literally half the trip home was just us like, oh. He's sort of really nodding off. And then I picked up my dog from my mum's and came home. I don't even think I put a wash on at first. I think I literally put the heating on and went to bed, filled up my juice bottle and then went to bed. I was knackered, like so tired. And that is it. That is our holiday trip. I mean, I should mention, I know we got it on video about the town hall in San Francisco. We actually were outside that for about half an hour or something like that. We had to leave our bag with a fella because we both wanted to use the public toilet, and you weren't allowed any bags or anything in, because they have an issue over there with like the homeless people and drug users and that sort of thing, and they use that toilet to go and inject themselves with or stuff like that. So they actually have a member of staff stood there now, and you're not allowed in until you've checked in your bags. Well, yeah, with him anyway. So yeah, and then we sat outside City Hall. My mum had a coffee and I was just kind of in awe, because I'm like, oh my god, that's where Harvey Milk got shot. And there's the art gallery and there's just loads of stuff going on. It was really, really nice. But yeah, that was it. Now, to this day, I still talk about this trip with my mum, and both of us now have this feeling like before we went on the holiday, we couldn't imagine that we were actually going. It didn't feel real. Well, now that we've been and life has returned back to normal for us, well, I mean, normal minus the lockdown, but it actually feels like that was a dream, that we didn't go and it didn't happen. It just, I don't know how to describe it. It was amazing, and I know I can hand on heart say I was there, I saw this, I did that. But you know when you think about it to yourself and you're like, have I really been? It was just so good that it just felt like I hadn't been there. And at the drop of a hat, I would go back to San Francisco. It's everything I dreamt of and more. The people there are amazing, and they are from all over the world, and there is such a unique way of life in literally every different part of the city, and it's amazing. It really, really is amazing. So yeah, I definitely left my heart in San Francisco. I really did. The song's true. But yes, that is it. And that is it as well for this episode, because I think an hour and 6 minutes is kind of long enough for listening to my voice. But yeah, thank you very much for listening on this. If you would like to support this is this a podcast, then please have a little look at the video in the link in the video description below. Please order yourself a giffgaff SIM card. Giffgaff is the network ran by you. They have some of the best deals available on mobile networks in the United Kingdom, some of the best prices available, and some of the cheapest mobile phones are also available. So through that link, you can order yourself a free SIM card. It comes with £5 preloaded onto that SIM card. And that is it. So thank you very much for listening. And I will see you in Is This a Podcast? Episode 8. Bye.